we as black people are always angry, it seems, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be included, wanting to be a part of something. After all this thing, it's like, build this platform, for us and solve our own problems, help our own people type thing. Well, from that, then there had to be, the next thought process was, okay, what do I think the black community need help with?
Love, business is business, take it back to the basics. Multi-million cash, the feeling's amazing. Got a Porsche inside my stable, don't horse with me, baby. 20 plus in my field, I'm like Coke with the Lakers. It's like I'm touring the Sprinter, doing these road trips 3 days. Close for more M's, I stay on it. When you step on the premise, just know I own this. Collaborate inside of my district, it's for the owners. The conduit and the pun is the true 101. How I conduct business, you just might learn.
What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Collab District Podcast, man. I got another exciting guest with us today. I got Mr. Social Justice Warrior, a HBCU alum, owner of Project 50, and we'll talk about his new venture at Round 4, but I got Mr. Dexter Nunnery to the show. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So, Dexter, I don't know if you know this, but fun fact is you're like the first customer of the Collab District. When I first met you and I was talking about building this place and you had asked to rent it out to do a podcast with Coffee and a Black Guy.
Right.
And that was before any of the aesthetics and the mural that Lexi drew. So that's where I first met you a couple of years ago. And so that's
first one.
Yeah, so we got the first customer of the Collab District on the show as well. But, on this show, I like to kind of tell stories and tell people and entrepreneurs and people, blazing the trails in our community. And you've definitely been one since I met you. But I kind of want to go deeper and learn more about you. You grew up in the South. I grew up in the South, so I got a lot of Southern hospitality in me, but I'm from here. I call this home, but, I got a lot instilled in me. And growing up in the South in Mississippi, talk about how you're raised with, your culture and that South and religion and everything that, being raised in the South comes with.
Well, growing up in the projects was, some people probably relate to, my experience if you've grown up in the projects in any state.
Yeah, it's relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Mom working, a couple of jobs. Our family was pretty big size. I had 2 sisters and 5 brothers.
Wow.
So
where are you in the chain?
I'm sort of like middle.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got a younger brother and I got a younger sister.
Gotcha.
And then it's me, and then it's everyone else is above me. But growing up in the projects in an area like that, you learn to be competitive, because mom is gone, and everybody kind of have their own friends that they hang out with. But once you step inside the house, of course you got to be in the house by that street light. By the time that come on. Yeah. And then there's people in the neighborhood who will tell on you if you weren't.
Yeah.
So it ain't like you were getting away with it just because mom was working. So that part of it, and it was fun, man. It wasn't it didn't feel like there was a lack because we were always outside playing, always hanging out, always doing things. And then even when we were inside, we would turn furniture over in the house, man, and play like cops and robber type stuff. Yeah. Break broom handles and make, with rubber bands and those type of things. So, we found ways to entertain ourselves, while mom wasn't, while she was working. Mm-hmm. But that family cohesiveness, really makes you, there's a family dynamic and then there's a independency part of it too, with that many family members, like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So it taught me a lot, that part of it, and then as I grew older and got into sports and stuff, then things started to kind of come together as far as like the sports life. and that kind of led me out to a different school, transferring to kind of pursue that whole basketball thing.
Yeah.
But growing up in the South, it was really, we had a lot of fun. Sports was heavy, so a lot of the things that we look back now and say that we didn't have, like if you're, in the morning before school, you're making syrup sandwiches.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, so you doing those type of things, man, and but it still doesn't feel like a lack because you're always busy, having to do a lot of things on your own, as far as like getting dressed, getting to school. There was no mom taking people to school type thing because she was working the day and the night.
Yeah,
so a lot of the stuff we did on our own, and it kind of helps you as you are going through life now.
So, being raised in a single parent household, as I was, I can relate to that. Did that kind of teach you to, like you said, you had to figure out things on your own between you and your brothers and sisters? Did that kind of teach you to be independent?
Yes.
It forces you to be independent at a younger age, right? Especially if you have younger siblings, because in our community, in our culture, we're expected to be caregivers to our younger siblings, right? There's not a choice, right? There's no choice. You're watching your younger brothers and sisters no matter what. So not only do you have to be independent, we learn how to become caregivers at an early age. And you talked about you grew up hooping. I can also relate to that. Tell me a little bit about your hooping background, man. I'm interested to hear about how your hoop career went.
Well, basketball, like growing up, I played a little bit of football, played baseball, and basketball as well. And as you get through like middle school and things like that, you start to hone in on like which one is more important. That's if you have the thoughts of like it being a career, which mine was going down that path.
We all start out that way, right?
Yeah. So having to choose, and then of course I chose basketball, and that was, I always thought, even though like I'm playing in community leagues or
Church
school
leagues,
or whatever, all that stuff, like as a kid, right? Summer leagues, that we had back there, even playing in those, I always knew and thought and had the thought process that, okay, everything I'm doing now is preparing me for the NBA.
You had that at what age? You started that at
that was early.
That was early.
Yeah,
you thought you was going to league early.
Absolutely. Like it's like a dream, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So early. And I took that very serious. It was never like a conversation I had with like teammates or anything.
It's just a feeling, right?
It's a feeling. Like, and then knowing, like seeing the talent that you're playing against and the things that are happening. It's like, okay, this is a possibility that it could happen. So as I was, like, the city that I grew up in, as we was going into high school, getting ready to go into high school, so there was me and one of my childhood friends named Charles Abrams, and him and I were guards, and we sort of was playing behind the star guards for the team. And the coach, those were the coach's boys. Everybody knew it. And it was like, okay, I can't get to the pros sitting on the bench behind these dudes.
Yeah.
So I switched schools.
Okay.
And went to, I left a school called Macomb, and that was the city we grew up in. So I left that school and went to a school called Liberty, where when I was a child, like baby child, I grew up in the country. We lived in the country part, like in Liberty.
No, but see, the viewers, you see, our audience may think of Mississippi and say that's the country.
Yeah.
But when country people say the country, that's like you
Yeah,
out in the
yeah,
sticks,
yeah.
right? You out in the woods, you out in the
Like
sticks.
California people probably think Mississippi is the country.
Yeah, that's what I said, just country. But when you're saying country right now, you're saying you in the country
We
in
out
the
there.
sticks.
We
with
in the sticks.
Little resources, water, wash houses, and you wringing out your clothes because you don't have a washer and dryer.
We even had like, I kind of grew up on like the farm life.
Yeah.
So my uncle had a mule. He plowed the fields. We had corn. We had, watermelons. We had okra. We had pigs. We had everything, right?
Yeah.
So that was the lifestyle there. So when I switched schools, like I was a kid when I was a baby, let's say like, between the up to 5, we were there. And then my mom got apartments and we moved out, out in the city part of Macomb, we call it. But then when it was time for this basketball career thing, I switched back to that city where I grew up in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then going there, being like, those are people that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I knew what the plan was.
You had a plan.
Yep.
So early on at an early age, you make a decision that is for you, that's best for you. Because I'm sure, your boys are probably joning on you, ragging on you because you're switching schools, and that may seem like the easy way out, right? Everyone wants to tell you, oh, you should just compete and beat the next guy out. But we know in sports and a lot of things in life, it's not always about your talent, right? It's about relationships and, there's other politics and things involved. So, like, you made that decision at an early age to say, I'm going to do something for me and what's best for me, because you had already said you made it. I'm going league, right?
Yes, correct.
How did that decision work out for you?
So, switching from the school I was at, going to this other school, like there was this chip always wanting to meet the team that I left because I knew I was better than those guys. And it was like, I can't wait to meet them. But because we were in a lower district, then we didn't get to play them. It was only like we would probably meet them in one tournament, which that tournament I look forward to, but they got knocked out.
Gotcha.
In the first round.
Yeah, you want some get back. You wanted to prove to them.
So I would see them. They would come to the games and be in the bleachers because it was like the biggest tournament in the area. So I would see them in the bleachers. I was like, okay, I guess y'all coming to watch me play since y'all knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that that switch started happening, and then all of a sudden I start getting the letters and the visits.
Start getting recruited from colleges.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So all that stuff started happening.
About what year? About that usually happens
11.
about your junior year?
Yeah. Junior year. So my junior year, those things started happening, and I'm at this other school. So, of course, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm a baller, and that could be good for the team as far as number-wise. But I think it came back to haunt me, like, as a career move, just for the simple fact that so one we was playing in a conference tournament and we were ranked number 1. We were seeded number 1 in that tournament, and our coach kind of knew it. So we were like a run and gun team. Like back in those days, like there's no strategy as far as like, our coach wasn't a coach that had a strategy when it comes to winning type thing. We just ran people off the court. So when it comes down to tournament time, we lack that half-court offense to really buckle down and beat somebody.
Gotcha.
So we playing in a tournament, a conference tournament at home. We're playing the number 8 seed, and we're number 1. And our coach decides to discipline me in that game without telling me.
Okay.
So
did you deserve it?
Well, as we go,
I'm sure at the time you didn't feel like it being 16, 17 years old.
Well,
but now looking back on it, is that something a punishment that was deserved?
So let me say this, and we're going to get to it real quick. So why that was happening, right? So the first quarter goes, when I say discipline, right? The first quarter goes by. We got like reporters in the stands. We got people coming to watch, and I'm sitting on the bench, and you got people behind me saying like, "Hey, you're not playing, like you're not starting." So in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, coach gonna see we're playing the number 8 seed. So he's probably not starting me because he want to see how many points I can put up in 3 quarters or something like that. So that's my mindset right at 16.
Yeah.
So second quarter comes, nope. Third quarter comes, nope. Fourth quarter comes, I know I'm not going to play, and we're winning too. So he's not, So then we get in the dressing room and the coach goes off on me. Like, this is not your team. This is my team. He's yelling, blah, 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 blah. So I'm 16, right? I don't know why this is happening. There is no previous, warnings of anything. There is no previous gripes with teammates. There is none of that stuff that happened. Mm-hmm. So this was like a out of the blue type situation. Mm-hmm. And when it happened, I took it in the locker room. But then as we left, I told one of my homeboys, I'm like, well, we're gonna see who's a bigger man out of him and me. So I quit. Mm.
So let me ask you a question, not to cut you off, because I'm curious. Growing up in a single parent household with your mother, was that the first time you've ever been disciplined by another male?
You have asked a question that's never been asked before. And yes, because going from my mom, then when I went out to this other school, I was in my aunt and uncle. Mm-hmm. So I learned that family value, marriage, and all those things, right?
Right there, yeah.
But that, and then being this superstar player, no one ever told me no. And this happens, and it's like, okay, why is it happening? So long story short, I think some players from that school, they probably went to the coach and was like, hey, this guy, I was the leading scorer too. So they was probably like, okay, this guy's shooting a lot, he's doing it, whatever. I don't know what they said because it was never told to me why he was doing it. But when he did it and I quit, it changed everything. The letters stopped coming. The visits stopped. Because I was at a different college, on a weekly basis, visiting a school or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I even told school that I actually ended up going to, which was Jackson State, I even told them, no offense. When the visit came, no offense, but I can't get to the pros from your school.
So was that
and that was all this stuff was happening before I quit. So once I quit, and then there was something I didn't understand why everything stopped at the time, because I never knew why it stopped. There was no conversation.
Yeah.
So like I said, looking back at it now, I felt like a real coach would have pulled me to the side, or we'd have been in practice and he just brought it up and said, hey, we got a little issue going on. This is like bringing the team together.
Yeah.
But I think it rubbed me the wrong way, because it felt to me like he wanted to show the hometown boys that he was in charge.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't even know that this is happening, this conversation.
Yeah.
So when once I quit, and then of course I went back, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Because things had changed. No phone calls, no letters, no visits, and all those things. And here's the thing that that was weird. I didn't find out until about 5 years ago of what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. and I was in my garage about 5 years ago, cleaning out my emails. And this junk spam email shows like a ancestor.com type thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I clicked on it. I said, okay, well, it says anything you want to find out, just put in the name and the year or whatever. And I did that, and then of course it said, pay $3.99. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it for $3.99. So I did it, and I put in the year that I played ball, and articles like start popping up like crazy, like popcorn, which I never knew. And from there, I called my family and my kids, because when I moved out here, they've seen me play in leagues. We've won league things, so they knew I was pretty good. But I came out here 10 years after, I had finished. So I pulled them in the garage and they saw, and then one of my daughters was like, wow, we could be, making money right now type thing. And I was like, well, that could have, that could have been a different path if I went that road, then this probably be, yeah.
Yeah, life would be a lot different. It wouldn't. It's not necessarily the comparison.
Right. So what I found out was that article popped up, and I got real emotional because what he said wasn't the truth. But he went to the newspapers and said that I quit because I didn't start. And it left it at that. So then it gave me more insight on what he probably told recruiters and things like that to stop calling. Nobody wanted a quitter on their team.
Yeah, once you get the reputation.
Yeah, exactly. So that article, like, I've just found out, imagine that 5 years ago as me being an adult.
Yeah.
What happened at 16 that changed.
That pivoted your life.
Yeah.
And you continue. Did you end up graduating from that school, and then you went on to?
Yeah, I graduated from there, and I went to Jackson State, but it was more like it wasn't because of basketball.
Okay.
It was more of, I had friends that was going to school there, and I went for 2 years.
And did you play ball while you were there?
No.
So you went
because I knew what I had said in high school.
To the coach, to the coach and the recruiter.
Yes. So it was like, nah, I can't even, that ain't even gonna work.
Yeah.
So and I went for 2 years, and then just being in school without basketball, it wasn't fun. So I left.
Well, how was the HBCU experience? Because when you went to the HBCU, not that it's commercialized now, but it was all, predominantly all black students, right?
I think, I think everyone, I know it's far-fetched, but I think everyone should experience a HBCU.
Why is that?
Because it humbles you in a way where you see the lack of things that like I say, I was going to basketball camps and other things. So I had saw
other universities and institutions and stuff,
yeah.
And the resources and
exactly.
And the facilities and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. So on that end, I think people should experience it, but on the other end, that's the only time I felt like black people were united.
Gotcha. Like-minded.
Exactly. Was on campus or in college. I always felt like, being at a HBCU, it was like a family thing. Like everybody, it was like unspoken rules, certain things that were always like the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it made me feel that that was the first time I felt like unity.
Yeah,
as a black culture,
like a sense of community.
Yeah,
because even growing up in the South too, and I know like it's a different time. When you were there, it still was segregation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So you get onto this campus and you feel this like sense of unity and community. Because even though there's even in the South everywhere, even amongst ourselves, there's that division and that and that conquer and divide. It's another topic for another day, but. Talk about that experience of being on campus and that sense of community. And did you join any fraternities and some of the relationships that you were able to build at the college? Well,
looking at my life now and my life path, like that's a regret. Two regrets. One regret is that I didn't finish. I didn't stay. Okay. And the other regret is not joining a fraternity. because I see the power.
There's a lot of
the power of that brotherhood that happens in the business world. And it's like so just to give people a perspective, right? You and I could be roommates in college, right? And then we both leave college. You're a Kappa, I'm not in a fraternity at all, right? Now all of a sudden we're adults and I reach out to you for some business help. Because I'm not a brother, that business doesn't get shared.
It's limited.
It's limited.
You have limited access to their resources.
But if you're in that fraternity, it's automatic.
Wow.
And that goes across anything. Like that fraternity can be at Ole Miss, it could be at Jackson State, it could be anywhere.
It's not limited to the institution.
Nope, it isn't.
If you're a Kappa, you're a Kappa everywhere. My daughter's in a sorority as well, so I understand that.
You know what I'm saying?
And the power of the relationships and long-term relationships as well, and the opportunities that they can bring. And now, how do you feel about that regret today?
It's a regret, man. There's those two things that I mentioned. I think about them throughout my daily, living. If I was just a regular guy working a 9 to 5, I probably wouldn't think about it much. But I'm active. I got these platforms.
Yeah.
So throughout these platforms, I'm always trying to take them to the next level, crack that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're right there, and then just, man, if I had those relationships from those times, I could reach out to some of those guys. Not have to be those guys.
We just tap into those resources.
Yep,
right?
tap into the resources, and because I've seen it happen. I've seen like how they help each other.
Yeah.
Unspokenly.
Yeah.
And
it's a brotherhood for sure.
Yep.
So what brought you out here to Southern California or to the West Coast and like Oxnard in specifically?
Well, I got family here.
Okay.
I got family here that played sports, and my last name family, Nunnerys are kind of known in sports around here.
Yeah, I grew up around.
But one of my cousins that I went to high school with, I grew up with, me and him, like the school that I went back to the country to go to, he lived up the street from me. So him and I grew up together as kids, and then he moved out here. And once, one day we just having a conversation that, he called me and he was telling me, man, you need to really, really come to California.
How old were you?
27.
27, okay.
Yeah, so everything was already over and, done with it, and I was working a job,
And so you had travel for sports, and you're talking about relocating across country. When you got out here to California, was there a culture shock for you?
Yes, I found out. So when I was 16, my older brothers was already out here.
Okay.
So they came out. My dad actually, when he left our family, he came out here. So my two brothers came out here to finish high school, and then because they was going to CI and then on to Oxnard College. My brother played basketball. My other brother ran track. So they would call home all the time and say, hey, we need him out here. But at 16, you're asking a country guy to leave his mom and come to a big state called California. Mentally, I couldn't handle that. Like, it was too much for me.
Yeah.
I was scared. Like, no, I can't do that type thing. But then once I got out, fast forward now, and I get out here, and I'm like, wow.
There's a lot of opportunities.
It was so many opportunities. And
faster pace.
And, like, I start balling with people.
Gotcha.
And I'm like,
Yeah. No.
I could have smashed this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we be going to parks and stuff, and we be playing, and you know, yeah.
So when you came out here, it sounds like you dove right in and connected with the community. What was the inspiration as we started to talk about your platforms for your nonprofit, VC Project 50?
So fast forward to like I had did a lot of like entrepreneurial stuff, like because that's always been like the creative spirit has always been there. You know, even from growing up, even with the thought process of going to the NBA, then if that's not happening, my mind still wants to do something, want to create something, want to be big at something.
Yeah, entrepreneur spirit.
Yep. So I had did a lot of stuff. I had a retail store before, clothing store. I've written a book. I've done a lot of things, right? And so leading up to Project 50 was during the end of 2019, I was contacted by a friend who I had met, and he was working with or friends with the tourist center of Oxnard, and they had a thought process of putting on some sort of big event to channel. I guess in the tourist world, there was this stigma around the city of Oxnard as far as like gang activity and stuff like that, right? So they was trying to do something wanted to put on a big event that represents and brings people here so that they can see that it's not like that. You know, there are a bunch of things here that you can do. Yeah. So they wanted to put on a music festival, and they heard that I had did one in 2018. So I had put on, with my team from a previous platform that I had, we put on a music festival at the fairgrounds. So we started with $0 and we raised like 12, 13,000 to be able to put it on. And from that, people kind of knew this guy knew. And then, so he told them, and we started having the conversation, and then we started going down the path of putting it together. And it was going to be a 2-day festival. We had got the artists together. We had, started. And I told him, I was like, look, the only way we'll dive into this is if y'all already have sponsorship ready. Because we're 6 months out from the date y'all want to do it. And 6 months is definitely not enough time to do a festival this size.
Yeah.
So then they start talking to me about, DW Drums and, other platforms that they had connections with, and then some funding that they were going to provide. So long story short, that didn't happen as far as the funding and things. So we had already made a significant impact. So then I had to start, looking for other ways for funding. And as we start doing that, the pandemic happens, and now we had to start refunding money and doing things like that. So it kind of, killed that whole thought process. But as the pandemic happened, then in the first quarter of the pandemic, then there's these videotapes surfaced of like Ahmaud Arbery being killed, chased down by the father, the son, and the neighbor. And then so some people reached out to me about they wanted to have a peaceful march in some way to show their support of this. We're against this type of mentality. So I kind of like brushed them off the first time because I'm like, we're in a pandemic. Where you gonna march at? Yeah. But then she was kind of persistent, so I said, okay, they really want to do it. So I met up with them. We in help organize and structure that walk, and then the very next month, I think that was around March or April that videotape started, surfacing. Then the very next month, I think May, was the George Floyd video. And it went right into, I was contacted again by a mutual friend we have, Jordan. And he had this platform that he had set up called The Talk. And it was sort of like, wanting to have a conversation with the other side meaning law enforcement at this time for this incident. And
Yeah, I remember that. We did that here, didn't we?
yep, and that's where we sort of when you mentioned earlier about becoming your first client, that's it was that moment that we did, and Coffee with a Black Guy was the narrator for that platform. That was one. Well, the talk we did one, our earlier one, and then we did one on policing our people. That was to be correct. That was the one that we did here, and because we wanted kids to not leave here thinking that they could talk to cops any way they want.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting ready to go to school and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, they'll still put a bullet in you no matter. California's not everywhere. So after that, and then, you know, the online chatter, because everybody was online.
Yes.
And the online chatter, every time you mentioned George Floyd, it was, you know, being killed or trying to talk about police brutality in any capacity. You always had that group, that pocket of people who would say, well, what about Chicago? It's like, okay, well, we're talking about police brutality right now. Like, that's like, you can't kill a snake by using tactics that you would kill a chicken with. Like, they're two different platforms. Let's focus on this one first.
Yeah.
But, you know, people wanted to get into that. It was a deflection. I knew that.
Yeah.
But what we wanted to do was give people a chance to express those feelings. So we did another one called Black Crime. And we did that at another facility, and we narrated that thing, and we brought in, what we wanted to do is show people how crime happens no matter what community you're in.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the dynamics, if the financial structure is not there, if the educational structure is not there, then you got gang activity,
drug activity.
Yeah, all those things. And if those things are in any community, crime is going to happen. It doesn't have to be black, but, you know, that's the narrative people was trying to push towards. So with those platforms, after those, I just started looking at all the work we had did, all the platforms we had set up, the marches and things like that. So then I started thinking, like, man, we as black people are always angry, it seems, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be included, wanting to be a part of something, wanting to be respected. And I was like, you know, that when you look at being the borrower, you're always a slave to the lender. So that mentality was never going to change. So from that point, it was like, how about, and then join with the online chatter, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, at this point, how about we build something for us to solve our own problems and deal with our own issues? And that was sort of like the mindset along with that. But that was the second time, right? So that's the second time the thought process of doing our own thing had happened. The first time it happened was right around the end of that, the festival ended because of like the pandemic and things like that, right? So before that, in the planning process, Nipsey gets killed in 2019. Mm-hmm. And from that point, I mean, I liked his music. I wasn't like this super fan of it, but
I'm a super fan.
Yeah. So I wasn't a super fan. I liked, you know, his music, but what I liked more, in with him, just with anyone else, like Tupac or anyone that's killed, no matter who it is, you always find out more about the person after the fact because everything starts surfacing of what they were involved with. Yeah. So for me, the business side of Nipsey is what blew me away and had me more intrigued about him, you know, more than the music. Mm-hmm. It was more about this guy. His mentality, how he was moving within the hip-hop culture and how he was owning things, creating things, and standing on who he is and his way of life and what he believed in. So that stuff was part of it. And then that just, you know, one of the platforms that I got attracted to was Vector 90. Mm-hmm. And when hearing about that, I'm like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I actually decided to take a trip to see for myself, you know, his spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like now I was in that zone of like, let me get close to this guy in some way. Like I hear these things, but I want to feel what this is. So as I start making the trip there, my navigation sends me through the community. It's not on the main streets. So it sends me through the community to get to it. And I'm like, as I'm getting there, I'm like, man, this is so dope. I start getting chills, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that how this guy was doing this. And as I was coming to the area, I passed it because it's in that little.
Yeah. I've been there.
So I passed it, and I knew I was in the right area.
Yeah.
Because I saw Rolling 60s on.
Murals.
Yeah, all the stuff that was on. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in the right spot. I just got to find it. It's probably back here and there. So once I saw that and saw what had been accomplished, what had been set up, and then as you're going up the steps and you're seeing all these motivational things that are happening, that you're reading, and it was like, man, it just blew me away once I got inside, and they gave me the tour, and that was the first time that I thought about doing something for Black people, and then
you were inspired by Nipsey.
Yep. So that platform and him and that whole Vector 90, that was the first inspiration of wanting to do something for us. And then fast forward, all this other stuff happens, and it takes me after like a 4 or 5 events. Now I've witnessed why I felt that way.
Yeah, there was something inside of you.
Yes.
And so explain to the audience what Project 50 is, what your mission is, and how do you serve the community?
So once I decided on what I wanted to do, after all this thing, it's like, build this platform, for us and solve our own problems, help our own people type thing. Well, from that, then there had to be the next thought process was, okay, what do I think the Black community need help with? And then there was, okay, child support, probation, job services, like young adult counseling for the mental health side of things. And so these services, I did a presentation in front of online with a group that I've been a part of, like, for 6 years. And it's a group that anyone who is dealing with young adults, they're in this group. So that's where all the probations and child supports and all these other platforms, and we meet like the first Wednesday of every month. And I did a presentation for that group pitching Project 50, and was like, no disrespect to anyone else, but this is strictly for Black people. And in the chat on that Zoom, I just started getting those messages from those, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. It was like a flood.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. Well, I know, and at the time it's just me, and I was like, I know I can't handle 10, but I can handle three to 5.
Did you get a lot of pushback for only want to help like Black people, as far as like other minority groups, as far as who also would be seeking your services?
Yes, and that pushback is consistent every day.
How do you deal with it?
Well, one is because a lot of people know me and what I did before Project 50. I used to have this platform called Hip Hop Help, where we put on events and raise, hip hop shows, and we raise money to help people with food, rent, and utility assistance. So that was for anybody. And so people within the county kind of knew about that, right? So they knew me trying to do this wasn't that I didn't like somebody else.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, is there any pushback from other communities on your on well, your
the push
50?
So
when you make that statement, it's only for black people or for us. I was just wondering it. Because there's all races have
issues.
Issues with child support, probation.
Yeah.
And they and especially in the black and brown community, because it's more of a we're scared of the system because of the resources that we know that we have available to us, and or of our lacking of understanding of the system. You know what I mean? So that's why I was asking: did you say you make that statement? Did you get any pushback, or you said you get it constantly?
So the pushback comes from externally and internally, meaning like everyone else and the black community as well, because here in Ventura County, the black community is like 1.7 to 2% of the population, right? So by that dynamic, most black people grow up around, and they have Hispanic friends, they have Asian friends, they have white friends.
It's very diverse.
It's very diverse here. So the mindset, right, of the black person. Now I'm talking about the pushback from the black community. Not everyone, but someone. So I get it. The pushback from them is they're hesitant to support this platform. They ask a question like, well, why just blacks? You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of being happy that you have it, it's more of a, why are you doing it just for us type thing. And there's a feeling of it, and this has come from like teenagers that I've had conversations with, right? Not just teenagers, but teenagers have been more outspoken about their feelings than adults have.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I support or be a part of this thing that is strictly for us, I'm going to be alienating my friends. Like, because they can't be involved in it.
Yeah, and they may need the same resources.
Exactly. So in their mind, they don't want to get involved with it because it's for them. But then I explained to them, like, all those other groups have their own platforms. You just don't know it. So what you're trying to fight, they already have. It exists for them. So, but that's, the young and the older generation. That's that's from the black community, but then also outside from I don't get any pushback from platform supporters, meaning like child support and things like that. Those platforms are happy that I've created it. They feel like it's about time somebody do something for y'all, like strictly.
Gotcha.
But the community side of it is, I get the questions from the black community. I get the questions from the white community. Well, why is this strictly for black? Why can't it be for XYZ? And my answer is always the same. We're only 1.7 to 2% of the population. Just by the sheer fact of numbers. Anything we apply for, we try to get included in. We're behind because of that. So let's say if you're talking about housing, right? You got 1,500 applications in a housing bucket. You see 1,400 Hispanics getting help before you. You all of a sudden think this system doesn't work for you and it's racist. When it could be just the fact that you're 1,401.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? So that gives the black person the image that this doesn't work, so they give up. So what Project 50 is like a VIP line to the nightclub. You know what I'm saying? So it's that, but the services that say that they support what I do. So the services say know and understand that, hey, because we're only 1.7 to 2% of the population, I'm not going to be sending them 40 black people a week.
Yeah.
So if I'm sending you 1 or 2 black people, then they're willing to help them because they know that there's no floodgate of black people coming. And if I open that up to try to help everyone, so now all of a sudden I'm doing the government's job.
Not necessarily.
if I open it up to all other ethnic groups. So now the black community is back at the back of the line like they started.
No, I don't agree with that. I more would say that if you opened it up, you would need more resources to serve other people.
Well, that's that too.
You know what I mean? Because if you have a certain criteria for who you help, regardless of their race, it's not about going to the back of the line, because people go to the back of the line because the people at the top, historically push us to the bottom line. You're at the top.
Right.
You're still at the top. So if your program is to be, fair for all, because that's exactly what we were at. That's what we asked for as black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is for us to be fair for all. Then I don't agree that if you opened it up, you'd have to we'd be back where we started. I think if you opened it up, we're in a different position because the person at the top is different in these programs, in the programs that are being ran by the government. Therefore, they have the same access.
So, okay, I can respect that thought process. Mm-hmm. So now let me give you the reality side of it. Okay, let's say I open up the child support platform. Mm-hmm. Okay, child support for anyone, not just black people. I will get 50 Hispanic calls to 2 black people. So now, even though I am at the top, mm-hmm. if I'm trying to be fair, then if those black people contact me after I receive 45 of the Hispanic applications. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, I'm helping those 45 Hispanics. And the black people are seeing me as a black guy help those 45 Hispanics. Mentally, they're like, okay, you just like everybody else. Why are you not helping us? Mm-hmm. Like, well, I am, but I got to help them first because they put in the application first. Mm-hmm. That's the government. That's the system that we already have because of the numbers. So that's what I mean by we'll be back to where we are currently if it opens up like that, because there's going to be more Hispanics, more whites. There's going to be more of those people mm-hmm. just because of numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And but do you feel that if you opened it up to other cultures, would you then have more resources?
More resources in what way? Because
meaning, like you're saying, I understand what you're saying. Like your resources are very limited, right? Not limit. I mean, you're limited as far as how many people you can reach. So if we have more Hispanics in our community than black people. So mm-hmm. if those people are there, but what I'm saying is, if your program was helping other communities, would you be being able to pull from resources from help? From the people, because like you said, there are people who want to help the Hispanic community, Asian community, black community. Would you get more help and resources to serve those other communities? As far as like on a larger Project 50 nonprofit, would you be able to pull from those communities of resources to help out with their community?
So what I can say is there are grants out there that are for diversity, mm-hmm. inclusion. The grants that are in those grants are there for helping everyone, right? Mm-hmm. This is what happens already. Like everyone already has an even playing field. Just look at it, the mentality that you're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Based on the question, we already have what you're thinking. It already exists. So it's like, okay, why do black people feel like the system is against them if it's not the system? You see what I'm saying? Like, why do black people feel this way?
Yeah, no, I understand
because currently what you're asking already exists, which child support already does this. Probation already has a even playing field. Job services, we deal with two platforms: the American Job Center and the Workforce Development Board. Their platforms already exist for everyone.
Got you.
They're already there. Like, so then the question has to be asked, why when you go into places, you only see, maybe you may see one black person, two max, but it's flooded with Hispanics. Like flooded. And one of the reasons is, which I have a meeting on Tuesday, one of the reasons is there's a communication gap that gets to these communities. So when I was telling you earlier about the black kid who felt like he would be alienating his friends if he seeked our young adult counseling services.
Yeah.
With those platforms, well, if he feels that way just based on like his community, then nothing changes if this opens up for everyone else. He's still going to have the same feelings. I am trying to change the mindset of the black community and bring more unity into it, and to let them know that there's someone out there that is fighting for you. I don't know any platform where people can feel that someone here in Ventura County.
Yeah.
I don't know another platform that people feel on an everyday lifestyle living help resource platform the black community have. There isn't one.
There isn't one.
So
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where we are. And sometimes that could be, I mean, it's difficult,
Yeah.
because there's so much diversity here, but when it comes to the resources, of course, if I open it up to everyone, then there's funding out, there's more funding for diversity versus funding for black people. Because those resources, I've had meetings with some grant givers, and they're like, well, we contacted you because your platform is amazing. Or would you be willing to open this up to everyone to get this money? And I'm like, I can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
doing that puts us, I would have more money. I would satisfy your criteria, but it puts us back to where I'm now no different than a government platform of regular child support.
Yeah.
Because they get funding for what they do. And they get that funding because we're open to all. That doesn't help the black community feel any more included. Because I have people who contact me saying that they've had their circumstance has been going on for years. They can't get caseworkers, they can't get this, they can't get that, and they contact Project 50, and their situation changed within 45 days. That's what I'm interested in for the black community. So I'll take all the bullets in the smoke when it comes to, like, why won't you open
your
this?
reasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you decided to tackle tough issues, especially in, like you said, the black community, whether it's child support, job creation, probation. Where does that passion, what inspired you to tackle those issues? Did you have your own experience, with child support, probation, finding jobs? Where did that inspiration come to tackle those issues? Because, like you said, in the black out here, there's no one doing what you're doing, right? There's no one that helps young, or young or old black people understand child support, understand the laws around child support. Same thing around probation. And, there's so many of our youth that get caught up in the system because of a lack of understanding,
Right.
because of a lack of resources and a lack of knowledge. So where did your inspiration to tackle those issues in this community come from?
Well, I've always been like, so let's say my helpful spirit, even when I was a kid growing up, with my mom working 2 jobs, right? And we having all these all these kids in the house. One of the things I used to do to help her was I would clean the house and then rearrange the furniture so that when she came home, she would feel something new and exciting about her home. Like it's clean for one, and while it looks good because it's been remodeled type thing. That's me thinking at a very young age, right? So now having the conversation with her, she actually shared with me how pissed off that was making her, that I was moving her furniture around. But she didn't say anything because she knew what my attempt was.
Yeah.
So that helpful spirit has always been there. And just multiply that or put that on top of everything that I see happens on a daily basis, right? The last, let's say, 7 or 8 years has been more with the growth of social media, and I'm on there a lot.
Yeah.
With the growth of social media, seeing the things that people talk about, the things that people are interested in, the things that people complain about, the things that and a lot of it is like, here's one thing I understand. No matter how many Hispanics, whites, it doesn't matter what that population grows to. One thing that I know that is always going to be prevalent in America is the mindset of black and white is never going away. Like, even though we're probably 13 to 14% of the population in America, right? There's always that competitive spirit of black and white. It's I know people want to be as inclusive as possible, but when you start to look at reality and you start to look at the systems, like I go to court with people, like I see like how people get treated. Mm-hmm. Like, and other people may be getting treated this way too, but I'm talking about mine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And seeing how they get treated. And some people, it's hard to talk to people about systematic racism, right? Because you can't put a finger on a certain thing. But what you can put a finger on is there are people that are making those decisions that are making those decisions based on your skin color. A lot of people like, well, why they don't want to talk about race, right?
Yeah,
you don't want to. You don't want to bring it up. Okay. Well, we have statistics, right? We partnered with Cal Lutheran's research department, and in like 4 months, I wanted to find out like where does our black kids stand in school, like versus everybody else. So they were able to come back to me with like 16 to 17 data points. High school graduation, suspension, like all these things. So the average person may feel like they don't want to talk about the color of your skin, but everyone else is keeping track of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's I know it's uncomfortable for people to talk about, and they want the unity part. A lot of people want unity. This is not about unity. This is about, so for example, we've had, a parent contact us when it comes to bullying at school, right? We have statistical data on the ethnicity of kids being bullied in school. So you can sit at home and think you don't want to talk about it. You want to. I don't want to bring that up because I want unity. Well, there's people behind the scenes that are driving, that are pulling this data, and it's based on when your kid goes to their counselor and says that they've been bullied. There's a question that may be asked, or they just determine it based on what they see.
Yeah.
And they put it in a bucket. This black kid came to us and said this Hispanic kid was bullying him. And then that goes into a data system. And now when Cal Lutheran wants to pull it, they have it. So everyone is keeping track of who's bullying who.
Yeah, they're keeping the statistics. Exactly.
So just seeing that, man, and just being a black person, and then just seeing that we don't have. I personally get tired of us asking. I know the power of ownership. I know the power of being in charge. I know the power of being able to make a decision. And that's how we change things for us. That's how we give us an opportunity. I don't want to continue to live talking about what other races are doing to us or feeling that way.
Yeah.
Like they keeping us out, where we're not included in this, we're not included in that. Build something that helps us.
Yeah.
So I'm the decision maker. I'm the trigger puller. Like I help us. I fight for us. This is not just a platform that helps us. This is a platform that holds us accountable too. And that's what it's about. It's like, look, we can help change, but this has to change.
Yeah.
You have to, and then there's the dynamic of like growing up in projects or what your surroundings that develops your mindset and how you're raised, how you deal with people later on, and all those other things. Like we want to fix that. That's what the young adult counseling side of things is geared towards. Like showing them. We've had a situation where I've walked into a house and a black kid has started to tell me things that his parents didn't know, and he already has a counselor. That counselor hasn't shared that with them, and it's like, look, he's sharing it with me because one, I walked in the house not as a caseworker to go back and tell some white guy or some Hispanic guy. I'm the black guy that's in charge of making the decision, and I come in there as an owner. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what sort of drives me. Like, I don't want to fight with anyone. I don't want to, discriminate against anyone. My wife is white. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, this ain't about color.
Yeah.
This is about
resources.
Exactly. This is about the resources that are out there that exist currently that the black community, they have access to. Sometimes it's just the level of communication and delivery of the information. Mm-hmm. Like we got a meeting on Tuesday with the emergency task information department of Ventura County. And before we were contacted, because someone told them about us, before we were contacted, in that spot they had BET. Like, how does that work for Ventura County?
Yeah.
But in the other ethnic groups, they had an organization.
Locally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had a local organization in those slots. But there wasn't one for the black community. And we currently have a black platform called CAC. We have a black platform called the NAACP. And I'm happy that you're reaching out to Project 50, but I'm also sad that where has the communication for the black community of getting emergency information been before us? If you had BET in that spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everyone is getting it except for us.
Yeah.
So those are the fights that I fight behind the scenes, is to make sure that we are included on platforms for information.
Yeah.
Make sure that we do have, right now, we're building a black directory for Ventura County currently. Project 50 is.
Gotcha.
So, and that's, when I say black director, I mean black business owners.
Yeah.
I mean black community, just the normal black person.
Yeah.
You know, because everyone can share information, and that's what it's all about. So once we get this directory built, then we're able to push this information out to everyone who can push it to other places. Now that's where, like, the black community has to be held accountable. Is once you get this information, don't sit on it.
Yeah.
Don't just keep it and think someone else is going to do it.
And in the future, where do you want to take Project 50? You said you have a location where you meet once a week. Do you envision Project 50 being a full-time center with full-time staff to help people in the areas that you help them out in?
Yes. So everything is sort of like the testing site here in Ventura County. Like, this is a platform that I know black people need across the country. So eventually that's part of the plan. But we want to own, or if we have to lease from somebody like us who has it.
Yeah.
Let's keep the money rotating, you know, and do that in every state to where we can rent from our own people.
Do you want to take Project 50 nationwide?
Absolutely. Yep. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Yep.
And if somebody is on the lookout or needing of your service in child support, job, probation, basically they can come to you for anything. How do they get in touch with you? So
the easiest way is by email. And our email is info@vcproject50, the number 50.org. So it's info@vcproject50.org. And through that email process, that's how we're able to do callbacks, get back to people. That's a whole lot easier than trying to make a phone call, because that's going to go into a voice message box and we'll get it later.
Yeah. Emails are good. Well, man, I appreciate your time today coming on the podcast. I always say time is the most valuable thing that we have in life. So I appreciate you coming and sharing your story, as well as your social justice work that you're doing here in our community for the black people in our community. I think it's definitely a need, but it's also that it's good to get the awareness out there that your platform exists. And like you were saying, I enjoy sharing resources, sharing platforms, because people do out here need your services to understand the law, understand probation, help with jobs, and then the young adult program that you have is much needed out here in the community, because so many of us, I would say black and brown people, we grow up in a single parent household, and we do need some type of guidance, some type of mentorship, and it doesn't become real to us until we meet a person like yourself or myself that makes it obtainable, right? It makes it like we come from the same areas. And if I can touch this or that person, it kind of lights that ambition and that fire. So I appreciate your work. Tell the audience again where they can find you on social media, your personal page, and your Project 50. So our Instagram page, which is the only social page we have for Project 50, and is VC Project 50 on Instagram. We have a website, and that's project50.org, where most of our work is seen, where people could actually, that's where you go to actually apply, see our previous work and things like that. Our Instagram page as well. But those are the two places where we have our Project 50, connections. Gotcha. And where people can contact us there. All right, well, check us out on all your platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And this has been another episode of the Collab District Podcast.